Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. After the 12 days of Crochet Christmas, my craft room was destroyed. And so I thought that you could just watch me clean while I answer some of your questions. The other day I took a poll over on Facebook, Instagram, and through my YouTube community tab and asked you what questions you would like me to answer. So if you have any questions that you want to be included in the next episode, make sure that you either subscribe to my channel, follow me on Instagram, or join our Facebook group. And if you end up liking this type of video, let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to make this a monthly thing. Now, first of all, this room is a mess. I know, don't judge me. But sometimes life gets in the way and that's what happens. So let's get to cleaning and answering your questions. Oh, hi there, little one. This is my 2-year-old, and you'll see him quite a bit in this video because he loves looking at himself in the camera. The first question that we have is, what makes me so slow at crocheting? Made in a day takes me weeks. So it really depends on your skill level. If you just started crocheting recently, then you have to give yourself time to get into the flow and getting used to the yarn and your tension and how the stitches work up. And it also depends on the pattern. I'm not sure what exactly makes you feel like you're slow at crochet, but if it has to do with having to go back and fix your mistakes, then I highly recommend you check out my playlist here on YouTube that's filled with crochet tips for beginners. But if you're not having trouble with making mistakes and it's more about just being slow, I wrote a blog post last year called How to Crochet More Efficiently. I'll leave a link in the description for that blog post, and it lists out, I believe, 11 different ways to crochet more efficiently or faster, if you will. The next question is how to design patterns. The first step to designing patterns is just doing it. If you know your stitches, you know what you want to make, all you have to do is jump in. Let's say you want to make amigurumi. Make sure that you have created enough amigurumi from other patterns just so you know how the construction of amigurumi is. That's the same for any garment pattern or really anything. You can't design a sweater if you've never actually made a sweater. It makes it a whole lot harder. So my first tip is to create a lot of that item that you want to design and figure out the construction and then sketch out your design and make it yourself. I do have a video on how to design patterns, but it's more of a motivational kind of video and not actual step-by-step instructions. So if you want to check that out, it's super old and a little cringy, but I'll link it for you anyway. Now for our third question, I kind of already answered, but I didn't see it before this. Do you have any tips for crocheting faster? So these are the same tips that I was just giving. I have that blog post called How to Crochet More Efficiently, and I highly recommend you check out that blog post. Another major issue could be your crochet hooks. I personally love Clover Amour crochet hooks. They are my favorite. And I've recently also gotten hooked on Tulip. So those are the 2 crochet hook brands that I absolutely recommend if you can get your hands on them. When I first switched over to Clover, they made such a huge difference, it was insane. And because it was so smooth, it absolutely helped me to crochet faster. And I'll also include the link to my 11 crochet secrets post, which is all the things that I've learned over the past 4 years of crochet. The next question is, what is your go-to crocheted gift? So for me, I love making blankets. I love to make blankets to gift to other people because when I was younger, my family was gifted a blanket, and it's the same blanket that I've had for 20 years. If you haven't seen it, I'll pause my cleaning and post a picture right here. So this blanket my family received when I was maybe 10 years old, and it's always been one of those items that were cherished in my family. So whenever I have the opportunity to make something for family or friends, I always make them blankets, whether it's a full-size Afghan or it's just a baby blanket. I find those to be the best type of keepsake. Where do you usually buy your yarn? I mostly buy all of my yarn online. If I feel like I need something right away, I'll go to my local Joann's. But if I'm purchasing online, I mainly buy from Lion Brand, Love Crafts, and also Yarnspirations. What is your favorite stitch? Oh my goodness, how do I even answer this question? I would say my favorite basic stitch is the half double crochet. Anytime I want to do something that's mindless, or if I'm working with a variegated yarn or a novelty yarn, my first go-to is the half double crochet. But when it comes to textured stitches, I'd have to say a bobble stitch. I mean, who doesn't love a bobble? I just love that they make your work beautifully textured and it sticks out and it's all 3D and you can just run your fingers all over it, and it's just love it. Why do I hate the magic circle so much? I promise you, it may not seem like it, but I can absolutely relate. Whenever I first tried the magic circle, I cried. I was so frustrated with myself because I couldn't figure out how to do it. Whenever I first started crocheting, I got pretty good pretty fast. Like, it was something that came pretty naturally to me. And so whenever I tried the magic circle, I assumed that I would be able to get it right away. But that's absolutely not the case. I cried, and I'm pretty sure I threw my hook across the room, but I don't recommend that. The magic circle can be tricky, but you also have to realize that the magic circle isn't absolutely necessary to crochet in the round. And that's why I just created a tutorial on this, explaining that there are other methods to crocheting in the round. If you can't get the magic circle now, just set it aside and try again later. That's exactly what I did. I told myself I'm done, I'm not gonna learn it anymore. And then a couple weeks later, or maybe even a couple months later, I picked it back up and I got it almost immediately. So really, just set it aside for now. Just crochet and relax and pick it up later, and I promise you will get the hang of it eventually. Now, this is a really good question because it isn't something I'm asked very often. For crochet newbies, how long after should they start making it a business? I'm trying to think of how long it took me to really start thinking about it as a business. And I think it only took me a few months. Mostly because my husband really pushed me into it because he knew I loved it and that I always wanted to create my own business in the art space. I had no idea it was going to be crochet, but I knew it was going to happen someday. So I think it's really up to you and your mentality on creating a business because it's really a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into it on the back end, and it's absolutely possible, obviously, because I'm doing it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. But just know that it is a lot of work. So if you're just going to be selling to friends and family, that's something that you can do as soon as you feel comfortable with the quality of your work. But if you are looking to start your own business with crochet, the best person to go to is the Crochetpreneur. She's my business mentor and is always there to answer all of my questions. She has a blog with a bunch of business tips on there, both about craft fairs and just selling online in general. She also has another program called CBA, or Crochet Business Academy, which I'm a part of and I have been a part of for the past 3 years. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave both her blog and the link to sign up for CBA. But I don't believe doors are open right now, so you'll want to add yourself to the waiting list if that's something that you're interested in. Which loop do you work into for the foundation chain? So whenever you look at a foundation chain, there are actually 3 different loops that make up a single chain. You can work into any of these loops, and I think that that's why some people get confused. There isn't a right way, it's all personal preference, just like how you hold your yarn or how you hold your hook. Everything is personal preference, and it all depends on what makes you feel comfortable and the look that you like. So I actually have a video tutorial on how to work into your foundation chain. There are 3 different ways, like I said. They all give you a different look, and I like to use each one for certain types of projects. So if that's something you're interested in and you want to learn more about, I will leave that video link in the description as well. How do I keep my edges straight? You won't be surprised when I say that this is one of the most common questions that I receive. And there are several different answers that I can give you. The first way to keep your edges straight is to count your stitches. That's really the best way, because if your stitches are off, then you'll know exactly why your edges aren't straight. But if you're working on a long blanket or something like that and you can't count all of the stitches after every single row, I highly recommend using stitch markers to mark your first and last stitch. And again, I have a video on this that I will link. I'm just gonna link all the videos I talk about in the description. But using stitch markers to mark your first and last stitch will ensure that you have straight edges at all times, as long as you understand turning chains. Turning chains is a separate issue, but also goes hand in hand with keeping your edges straight. So a lot of the time, if you don't understand turning chains and how they work, and if they count as a stitch, they don't count as a stitch, then that will hinder your ability to keep your edges straight because you don't know which stitches count as stitches. So I have 2 separate videos for those that again, I'll link in the description. And lastly, do you have tips for weaving in ends so they don't stick out? I do try to make sure that whenever I'm weaving in my ends, I go into the sections that are a little bit tighter so that they kind of hold the strand in. So whenever you're weaving in your ends, try to find those tighter spots so that they're held in and they don't like come out in the wash. And if they do, you can either cut that little piece of yarn that's sticking out, or you can just try to weave it back in. But I do have a tutorial on this also. I go through the single, the half double, and the double crochet stitches and show you how I weave in my ends. Literally, that's all the video's about. Alright, well that's it for today's Q&A. I really hope that you enjoyed this kind of video. It's something different and it was actually really fun for me to put together. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this type of video and if you'd like me to make some more, because I had many other questions that I wasn't able to get to today. So if you enjoy this type of video, I would love for you to give it a thumbs up, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and leave a comment letting me know if your question was answered or if you learned something new today. Alright, thanks for hanging out with me and watching me clean during this rainy day. I'll see you in the next one.